Delia Hanna and Steve O'Reilly are here to tell us about State Highway 48, which is an intrinsically New Zealand story with 26 original songs. It's on at the Bruce Mason Theatre from October the 15th to October the 19th. Kia ora to you both.
Kia ora.
Very warm welcome. Steve, you've just come from We Will Rock You.
That's correct.
What role, for people who saw that show, and that was a very lively show, what were you playing there?
I played Khashoggi, Killer Queen's evil henchman.
Yes, and that was of course with Annie Crummer as the Killer Queen, who was just incredible. Yeah. But what a beautiful story that you're straight from one production to the other. That's what we love to hear in the arts world, don't we?
What I want to hear, yeah.
So tell us about the story. Let's start with you, Delia. What is the story?
It's a family tale. It could happen anywhere in the world. It's about a couple who have 2 children. They're kind of upper middle class, I suppose.
But there's a recession background to it, isn't there?
Yes, that's right. There are cutbacks and corporate reshuffles and going on. And unfortunately, the character that Steve plays, whose name is Dave, he gets caught up in the carnage of that. And he's at an age, as are quite a few of the people he worked with, who it's not so easy to start again. Hence the title, State Highway 48. It's actually not a physical address or a highway. It's more metaphorical in regard to the struggles of a middle-age crisis, I guess.
The time of life. Gosh,
Yeah.
so tell us about your character. How do you portray him? How do you capture that angst? Because this is a story I've heard a lot in the corporate world.
Yes.
Well, and that's why it was, I mean, I think there are a lot of Daves out there, unfortunately. And it's not just New Zealand, it is a global story. And so it wasn't too hard to channel or to get this idea of where he's going and how to play him. It's very easy, in fact. We're obviously still working on it, but so with Dave, it's not hard at all, particularly in the circumstances of the story.
Well, I'm a girlfriend's husband was just coming up to his last 6 months with a very high-profile New Zealand bank, and they took away his job. They restructured it all, so he didn't get paid out any of the things he'd relied on for that 20 loyal years, and he's ended up driving a bus. So classic depression, huge anger, self-pity. How are you getting into this character's? You know, what are you going to hit on? Is he depressed? Is he pissed off?
Yeah, it's pretty much there on a low level at the beginning of the story, beginning of the show, and due to some circumstances at work and his relationship at home, it starts to spiral and snowball.
And yet we've got these songs. So what's the music like?
The songs are beautiful, actually.
All original.
They're talking about quite difficult things. They're inner monologues, most of them, you know.
Yes.
There's not a lot of dialogue in the show. It's more like a rock opera in that way, that it kind of tumbles into song storytelling and dialogue. What was the question?
Well, it's a beautiful way to tell. It's a beautiful way to tell the story, isn't it? The
is.
internal story of the character.
We humans are curious creatures. We actually quite like hearing that sort of stuff in song. We accept it as you know, a genre of normalness on the stage.
It makes it more palatable.
Yes.
And you were saying the composer of the songs and the storyline is a man who himself has worked in the corporate world. Tell us about that.
Yes, I mean, Chris. You probably know a bit more about
He's coming
Chris.
from his own experience, maybe not his direct experience, but he's been affected.
This is Chris Williams.
Chris Williams, who wrote the piece, has had a couple of friends and comrades who have actually topped themselves because they have gotten to that dark place, and nobody sees it coming. And I think, I don't know if you know anyone, I certainly do know about men of that age who out of the blue just end their life and nobody saw it coming, or there may have been difficulties, but no one was there to kind of grab them, and they didn't reach out at the most important time. And this story does go into that area, but at the end of it, we hope that there is hope and a way out of that black hole.
I just think it's a shame, Steve, that it's such a short season, because to me, researching on it, I think you're right. There are many families who could go to this and say, let's talk more about what's going on in our family. Because
it's a bit uncomfortable. People have said about the show when we toured around the North Island that they felt like that somebody was peering through their own window, you know what I mean, of their own home.
Wow.
Which is quite uncomfortable and sad, but here this is life.
Tell us about that. You've already done it. How was it received around New Zealand, and when was this performed?
I think it was difficult for some people to see it because it was a bit close to home.
When did you do this
brothers,
before?
For example, you know.
Yeah.
We did this 2 years ago. We did a North Island tour, kind of a flying tour, like is always the case in New Zealand.
Yes.
You know, 1 night or 2 or 3 nights. We did a week in Hamilton, which is where Chris Williams lives. And then after that, it was 2 or 3 nights, or just 1 night only. And it was well received. I didn't feel like it was a depressing piece to be in, oddly enough, because the music is absolutely gorgeous and a delight to sing. And I suppose the experience of being in a touring company is always a lot of fun, being on a road trip. So you're kind of in that mindset as well. But there is a positive note to it, but people certainly were thinking about it quite hard, about the issues.
Just get back, Delia, to what your brothers were saying. What were you about to say?
Well, my own family came and saw it, and my brothers are in their middle age years. They're family men. They've been through very similar things in their own life, and they were kind of speechless at the end of it. I don't know whether they enjoyed it or not, but it certainly gets you thinking, and it does strike home. Yeah.
And Steve, what else about the writing really appeals to you? Because you were saying Chris Williams, who's written the music and the lyrics and also the dialogue, that he's very powerful in the way he's executing this.
Absolutely, it's not just one plane. There's lots of ups and downs in the story, and I think the way it's written, it just tells the story very well. You know, it's not just from the get-go. Depression. There's lots of ups and downs.
Yes. And
also with how Dave copes with it, his mechanisms with his colleagues at the pub. So there's some very sort of party sort of scenes, and that with very high levels of enthusiasm.
Yes, even if it's forced.
He's putting on a mask a lot of the time, but this is what people do, especially our men, and whereas women can ring each other up and have a chat or support each other more openly, it's a bit harder for men. They tend to hide behind a social construct, don't they? Of drinking or being, I'm all right, don't worry, oh, this is great, and it's really not.
Yeah.
And so you just don't know how bad things are getting.
Yes, and so you're conveying these really subtle layers to the characters. Your character's in real angst, and yet he's looking happy at the pub. What's he like when he goes home to his wife? I take it you are husband and wife in the piece?
Yes,
we are.
What do you like when you go home?
It's not great because
no.
Because he says he'll be home. I'll be home to help the kids with their homework, but he doesn't come home.
Yes.
And it's very late.
You're
it's
seething. Your character's
and,
seething.
Yeah, and he doesn't communicate with me why he's at the pub. He says, I've had a bad day, but she doesn't know how bad it actually is.
Is it painful to play this, Steve? When you're rehearsing, are you feeling quite wrung out after some of the rehearsals?
No, I'm not one of those actors who draw on past experiences or anything like that. So the emotion that I draw on is gained from places where I've observed. I was a former police officer, so I've seen many damaging situations.
Oh, you've walked into these homes where there's all this tension.
There's a lot of things I can draw from, but not personal ones. I think if you do that quite often, then you're going to wear yourself out, I think.
Yes.
So I look for certain things, experiences in my life, but not that happen directly to me.
So in a way, when you finish the rehearsing, you can peel off that character, put him away, go home, have your life.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's quite a skill.
It's a good way to maintain your mental health yourself.
Your sanity,
Yeah,
exactly,
yeah.
because it sounds like quite a draining. What about you, Delia? Are you the same?
I think I am the same, but I find it quite emotional in places, this piece, and the music is quite, the notes in it quite hit those little emotional spots in you, subconsciously or consciously. But yes, I can as well remove myself once the curtain goes down.
You have to for your
I
sanity.
free myself of it,
Have you two worked together before? Or
Yes,
Yes, we have.
What
We did
have you
Mamma
worked
Mia
in?
together. Mamma Mia at the Civic
Lovely.
Yeah.
a few years ago.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we had a little number together. It was
Yeah.
very different circumstances.
Yes.
Well, let's move to that. Let's talk about each of your backgrounds. So, Steve, what is yours? I mean, it's fascinating coming from the police force into acting, although there's...
Well, yes, it's a bit different, isn't it? I joined when I was 28, so I've been there for 20 years. I recently retired this year, so... but during that period, I started off community theatre,
Yes.
which was great. I was able to do it because of the shift work that I did. So
Which theatre was it? Which...
a number of them. So just around Auckland,
Yes.
we've got North Shore, we have the Auckland Music Theatre. So I'd done a number of things, and I just slowly carried on and got progressively more sort of lead roles with that.
Beautiful.
So yeah.
Would you have loved to have done this full time if you'd had the means?
Earlier,
Yes.
absolutely.
So it really is a love for you, acting.
Oh, it's a love, and it's something that I think I can do, and I have the attitude that you just got to keep working at it, and you know,
Growing as an actor.
growing as an actor.
Does it
Never
involve a lot
stops.
of disappointment going to auditions you'd love and getting turned down? Well, it
No,
sounds
I
like
don't
you're not turned down much.
Look, I
Not so
used
far.
I used to get very nervous with auditions, but if my attitude changed, I see auditions as an opportunity to let them know let them see what I can do, and that's where it ends. If I get the job, there's a bonus. So my little project for preparing for an audition that's how I see it.
He's
I
got
don't
this
see the
gorgeous,
opportunity.
practical kind of policeman approach, hasn't he?
Yeah, very
It
That's
really,
really
it
good
removes the
advice.
nerves, the audition, because it's my little opportunity to do.
Show them how
the
useful
character.
you can
Yep,
be
and then
to them.
My job's done.
Yeah.
And that's enough. And the bonus is if you get the role. That's probably why so many roles come
much.
to you, because
You
you're
just
not
go
needed.
through.
True. If you think about the outcome and second guess all
Yeah.
the time, you're lost, aren't you? Really.
And it's out of your hands
Yeah.
too.
It is out of
so-
your hands, not up to you, and you don't know what they're looking for, and you can never know.
No.
And he's learned a way to not take it personally at all. I love that.
Well, still
stuff.
working on that. It's very hard. But
I'll be a publicity person. Now, what about you, Delia? What about your background? Because you've you've even been in the West End, haven't you?
Yes, I've
Yeah.
worked in the UK and in a show, Andrew Lloyd Webber show. I don't think I would have had a career if it wasn't for Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber. I've done a lot of his shows, and
Name.
Aspects
some
of Love was the one I did in the UK.
Yes.
And I met him when I was cast in that role, plucked off a beach in Thailand, flown over to have a cup of tea at his estate in Sydenham. He made me a cup of tea in his gorgeous vaulted kitchen.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, I know.
Let's
I know,
backtrack
it was a very long
Plucked
time
off
ago
a beach
now.
by Andrew Lloyd
I was
Webber
on
or by-
holiday, not physically. Yeah, again, I'm speaking metaphorically. No, I was summoned to London. I was halfway there, which was great. Just my holiday sarongs. I had to go shopping as soon as I got there to get something to wear to go
Had
and
you
meet him.
sent a visual audition?
Oh, I
or
was-
had you,
no,
How did he
I-
know about you?
He
What-
knew about me through the director. They decided to recast, or they were having trouble casting the role. So for Aspects of Love, very specific role. And so yes, I had to go over there and sing for him, which was a shock. But he was very, very lovely and made me feel very at home. He is like a church that he workshops all his productions in, just across the across a couple of lovely grassy knolls. And yes, he kind of played with the spaniels while I went and warmed up, and I had a driver for a few days in London, and I had free tickets to go and see shows, and it was quite a cool little stressful holiday. Yeah.
Amazing,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Kiwi just taking
right.
it all in his stride.
And I've done his concert tours, music of Andrew Lloyd Webber, and possibly some Cats, that's a big one. Done that 4 times.
That's
Yeah.
incredible. So you've made
Lots of
you
musical
have made a
theatre.
really good full-time career.
Yeah,
out of
I've
all
been
of
going
this.
since I gave up. I left teaching when I was in my mid-20s. I was an art teacher, and I just ran away with the show, The Pirates of Penzance, which was a tour around New Zealand, and then I hopped across the Tasman and did Les Mis, the premiere season of Les Mis for 2 years, and then I did the 10th-year anniversary as Fontaine, which toured, Australia and New Zealand. So I did Blood Brothers here, met my husband on Blood Brothers, he's an actor.
His name?
His name, Ross Gervin.
Oh, yes, yes.
So we met on a show here. Yeah.
It's beautiful, and you just have this kind of quiet faith that all unfolds. The next project comes.
Pretty much
and-
have to. I've had I've been very lucky. I've gone from show to show to show. Sometimes you've had to wait 6 months, but often you know you've got something coming up because they work fairly far ahead. If that show goes under, you go under as well because things are set up months in advance, you know, and that has happened a couple of times. But you just have to run with it because it's out of your control. Yeah.
Which is the story of all our lives,
Pretty
if we really
much.
understood it.
Yes, it is.
And
it
in
is.
a way, that's the story of State Highway 48,
Yes.
isn't it? Because these things are happening out of the character's control, and yet we see what they do with it. Final question, what do you think, each of you, Steve, starting with you, the audience will leave when they leave the auditorium at Bruce Mason Theatre, having seen this show? What do you think the audience will get from a show like this?
Well, I think if it resonates with them, if they have anyone, or if they know anyone that's going through it or has been through it in their past, it's a lesson. It's a lesson of how to cope. I mean, there's many other strategies to cope with depression, of course, but one of the first things to start with is to just to talk to someone who's close to you, just to let it out. I mean, that's maybe just the first step of many. So hope and yeah, I think it's just a really good lesson, I think.
A resilience, beautiful. And Delia, what do you think will come from this? Thank you, Steve.
I hope it's that people should just stay connected and not keep disconnecting, you know, that it's really easy to just let things slip and just not say anything and just not move towards that person. You know, it's just really easy to just move away, isn't it? But to just hang in there and really just grab them and say, I'm here for you, I love you. I want you to be in my life, I don't want you to disappear out of my life.
And we'll get through
And we
this.
need you. You know?
I'm really looking forward to this. Thank you so much for talking. It's like that Chinese idea, they say, crisis, the other side of crisis is opportunity.
Yeah.
Yes.
What are the opportunities in this crisis? to
It's
go
an
deeper?
opportunity for growth, isn't it? Every adverse experience is an opportunity for growth.
What a lovely conversation. Looking forward to seeing it State Highway 48 at Bruce Mason Theatre from the 15th of October. Thank you. Kia ora.
Thank you.
Thank you.